All right, everybody. Thanks so much for stopping by another live episode of Real Estate Titans, sponsored by Lion Bolt Media. I'm your host, Greg Fowler, traveling throughout the marketplace, interviewing the top real estate professionals in our field, essentially gathering insight, inspiration. It really drives and motivates these top producers above and beyond everybody else in what I'd like to consider a real estate titan. Our very special guest and feature titan for today, all the way from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, none other than Justin Havre. Justin, it's an honor, my friend. We were chatting just a little bit before we went live, and man, you're just incredible through and through. And I'm super excited to share your story with the Titan world. So thanks again.
Greg, thank you for having me on here. And it's truly an honor for you to ask me to be a guest of your amazing show. So thank you again.
This is great. And diving into the series of questions, everybody out there who's tuning in, whether you're listening or watching live or you're listening after the fact, I cannot wait. So Justin, without further ado, let's just go into the series of questions. Everybody getting to know who you are, what drives you, motivates you, and all the way through your path and career and some advice. So the first question is just telling everybody a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, your pathway to your career thus far.
Awesome. Well, originally I was born in Norway, and my family, they decided to move over here to Calgary in 1988. So I was a 13-year-old teenager relocating, having to obviously learn a new culture, language, and all that stuff. And, obviously growing up in Calgary has been amazing. And, consider myself now a Canadian and a Calgarian, and absolutely love this city because it's, close to the mountains, super clean. The people are absolutely amazing. And, this is home. So, I got into real estate in 2005, and I had, gone through some job changes. I was working in IT, installing high-speed internet. I was let go of that job and had to obviously go through some struggles there. There was one point in time where I was delaying paying my taxes, and the government just basically emptied my bank accounts. And I called them up, and I'm like, I told you guys I would start paying you when I was working, and how am I going to pay my mortgage? They're like, that's your problem. And I'm like, what? Wow. But lessons to learn: pay your taxes. Yeah. And when they send me letters, don't ignore them.
Wow.
Because I felt like I had a conversation with them, but sure, some time had passed. But either way, I was installing some satellite dishes and bi-directional direct way, which was internet satellite dishes, and climbing up on roofs here in Canada in the wintertime. Makes you a little bit shaky in the knees, but you're like, I got to do this because I got a mortgage payment to make. Wow. And didn't fall off any roofs, but there was a couple times when it was close. Yeah, heart started beating a bit, and decided to get into real estate. And I never thought of myself as a salesperson. So that was in 2005, and coming from obviously a tech background, and knowing that internet was the way of the future, essentially, started with my very first website, justlistedcalgary.ca. And, believe it or not, I was advertising my first website in the back of a newspaper. That doesn't happen anymore. But one of the things that I don't even remember the person that told me this, but I was told by someone is, always reinvest minimum 25% of your commissions back into the business. Wow. Right. Which can be tough at times, but, if you want to build something, and, in our industry, one of the things that I knew going into it is, if you have leads and opportunities, you will get sales. Wow. So I started to obsess about, search engine optimization, and obviously driving traffic to the website outside of doing a newspaper advertisement. Right. And it started to generate quite a bit of, leads and that kind of stuff. And my realtor, before I became a realtor, he actually took me under his wings at this independent brokerage here in Calgary. Love it. And, nothing better to have a friend mentor you. And, I'm like, hey, Mike, we got all these leads. What do we do with them? So, we went through, that whole ordeal, and I continued to obsess about, building websites and search engine optimization. And I started building a second website, which was justinhavre.com. Wow. And got those websites to start to rank, and, they were generating, a ton of leads and opportunities. And, in the brokerage where we're at, I was basically handing off these leads and collecting referral fees.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Good little model. I would hand them a lead and they would sell it and I would collect 50%. And that was kind of the arrangement that we had. And at the time I was working with, 4 other agents, one in Northeast, one in Northwest, one in Southeast, and one Southwest, right? So we basically covered the entire city.
Perfect.
And, that obviously led to some success. And in 2009, I was announced that I was the number 1 agent in this independent brokerage of 700 agents.
Wow.
Right. So top of the world, thinking life is good. Well, I was going through a divorce.
Ouch.
Right. Which, we all know that this industry can obviously take its toll on relationships, especially when this thing drives you. Right. Someone wants to write an offer when, and I remember this, with my ex-wife, we had an anniversary dinner and phone rings. It's a friend that wants to put in an offer and you're like, and at that time our market was pretty hot and, like, oh, honey, can we kind of cut this short? And, I got to do this deal, but I'm like, I'll buy a pair of shoes, that was, I got to A-okay. I thought that was good. Right.
Sure.
But one of the things that I've learned obviously through this industry is that, and through that experience, that one of the things that I pass on to every new agent that comes into our organization is the number 1 appointment in your phone when you start out in this career should be your significant other and spouse or family.
Beautiful.
Right. From personal experience, that has been the hardest habit to change, being a workaholic. Right. Sure. For us men, we can say, we want to be the provider of the family. But we also got to provide our spouses with time because they want that time. And, if you really want to work 7 days a week in this business, you can. 12 hours a day. Right. So, when they announced that I was the number 1 agent in this brokerage, I was sitting in this big empty house, obviously going through a divorce, and I cried. And I'm like sitting there thinking, I'm like, wow, is this what success feels like? Because, we all get into this business and we're like, we want to, earn a good living. We want to be comfortable. We want to provide for our families. And then when you get the recognition, you're like, well, this feels kind of empty and lonely. Yeah. Right. I had agents in the brokerage coming up to me saying, oh man, you must be so successful. You're this, you're that. And I'm inside, I was sad. I was crying. Right. But, you kind of go through this. And when I went through my divorce, I said, all I have left essentially is my work. So I put on this mask and hid behind it. And that was my work. And in 2010, we were forced to start the team essentially at the brokerage we were at because some of the agents that were in that brokerage that had been, there for a while, and this newer kid basically had come into the business and ranked number 1. Some of them were kind of complaining that, well, he should really be a team because the perception is that he's a team with me handing off the referrals. And I mean, in this business, there's so many different business models. For sure. Models out there. So Justin Havre Associates was started January 1st, 2010. Wow. And, continued to operate like that with, 5 or 6 agents for some time. And then I happened to go to a conference down in Miami. And this was probably one of the pivotal moments for my career and our team where sitting around a table down there and having some drinks and a couple of bites, I have some good food and having some conversations about real estate and, our operations. And, that's where I met Gary Ashton, who runs, the number 1 Remax team in the world and incredible operator. And, we're sitting around there and talking about how many leads we generate. And I tell them I generated at that time about 150 leads organically a day. Wow. And Gary looks at me and is like, so how many agents do you have, Justin? I'm like, there's 5 of us. And he's like, 5 in his British accent. He's like, you need 100. And I'm like, 100? I'm like, you're crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Right? I'm like, what is this crazy talk? So And one of the things that I've actually, and an analogy that Gary gave at that time, which, over my years, I've actually witnessed to be pretty accurate. So again, Gary, shout out to you.
Shout out, fellow Titan, Gary, for sure. Yeah, we love him.
1/3 of the agents are going to be able to take on new business. The other third of the agents are going to be busy with what they have on their plate currently. And the other third are going to be busy enjoying life, traveling, taking some downtime to recharge, right? So that analogy in itself is something that I've witnessed over the years. It's pretty accurate.
Wow.
Right? Because in this business, we get going and, we do need to recharge because we put in a lot of hard work and long hours and, it can be very draining.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, continuing on after that, came home, obviously. So many agents can probably relate to this too.
Yeah.
When you have your team leader going away to a conference, they come back and they're like, all right, we're blowing everything up. I got this new idea. This is,
That's so great.
So essentially that's what I did. Hired my very first staff, hired Courtney. She was our admin, and together with her, we were working out of my home and we were, restructuring everything and building, systems and processes at a very, beginner level, essentially, of what it is today. And we went and hired. So we went from 6 agents in December of 2012 to 28 agents in January of 2013.
Wow.
A little bit of growth.
Just a little bit.
Amount of time with little support. Some systems, but not a lot.
Okay.
No automations. I was manually assigning leads at the time.
Unreal.
In January of that month, we generated over 4,100 leads. And
crazy.
I joke about this, and I was good at giving our team members anxiety, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
Right.
I was just like, hey, Christine, how's it going today? You got a busy day? She's like, yeah, I'm booked solid. I'm heading out the door, and it's 8:30 in the morning. I'm like, okay, well, I just dropped 55 leads in your hopper. Have a good weekend.
See you later.
There's stories about agents
oh, no.
sleeping with their laptops and accepting leads in the shower of somebody at one point in time too, right?
That's awesome.
Again, an abundance of opportunities, but we've come long and far since then. And in 2014, we ended up going over to Remax, and we joined Remax first here in Calgary, which was actually the very first Remax brokerage in all of Canada.
Wow. Okay.
So now we got to kind of, we moved from an independent, we went over to Remax, and I'm a big believer in brand, and brand does transfer trust.
Sure.
And with Remax being a global brand, and virtually in every market in Canada, Remax has, the largest market share. So we looked at this as an opportunity to take market share. There's also some challenges with the brokerage where we were at, where they didn't want to recognize all the agents on the team because of the size of the team and the cost of doing that. So,
bummer.
I was pushing back a little bit on that. I said, you know what, if you're going to recognize a team, you should recognize every individual on the team, not just 3 people or 1 person.
Well said.
So we kind of butted heads a little bit there, and that kind of sent the message loud and clear to us to kind of look for a different place to hang our hat. And, that brokerage did serve us well during the time that we was there, but then, moving over to Remax and, with the incredible owner broker of Rick Campos, at the time when we came over to his brokerage, he had about 90 agents in the brokerage.
Okay.
So it's been really fun to ride alongside with, an amazing broker owner as well, and also watch his business grow as we have been growing alongside him. So here we are still at Remax first. Now we have a team of 65 agents plus about 18 support staff.
Unreal.
I never, ever imagined that. And I will be clear too. I never intended on building a team. Okay. It is just something that happened because, one, I think, going through my divorce and that experience and how I hid behind my work rather than to start working on myself personally, my work became my distraction. My obsession about work and being a workaholic I didn't take a 1-week vacation for 4 years.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So it was just work. That was my escape. And, that also led to the foundation of who and what we are today in
Right.
many, many ways. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that, the continuing on investing into the business was something that was obviously pivotal to the foundation of Justin Havre and Associates. And then about 4 years ago, I decided to obviously also do some personal development and start working on that. And, we've essentially shifted the entire focus of the culture.
Wow.
I used to probably, and I will say this, and maybe some team leaders can relate to this too. You're so focused on the transaction, right? And I shifted my focus to the people.
Wow.
Including myself, because really we are in a business where we got to, in my opinion, in 2021, we should really be obsessing about the client experience from start to finish of whether they're buying or selling. And then we also, as team leaders, we also got to focus on the agent experience when they're on your team or in your brokerage. What's that like for them?
Sure.
Because when you start focusing on the people, that's when all the magic happens.
Unreal.
Right. We all got our shit, pardon my language, right?
You're good.
We all have baggage.
Yep.
But at the same time, we're human beings, and part of that is we evolve, we grow, and we support one another. And today I look at this business as, it's a great platform where, we have team members from all different ages, all different levels of experience. Like I have the agent that mentored me, Mike. He is on my team.
Wow, beautiful.
And he's got 25 years in the business.
Wow.
Right. So, we basically created this environment where agents can succeed. They're supported. We have had agents that have sold upwards of 100 homes in a single year.
Wow.
Brand new agents selling 40 homes or 50 homes a year. And, it's about setting up systems, processes, and support for them so they can be successful. Right. And at the same time, the one thing that a lot of people do avoid is accountability. But it's accountability that also moves the needle.
And Justin, as you're laying down the story and your timeline to who you are and what you've done so far, it's very clear. Hopefully anybody who's watching or listening to this can pick that up, but it's through the continual action of really diving deep into your passion, which is business. And again, going through the personal changes and evolutions in your life, kind of diving deep into the business side, you wouldn't be where you are today without those experiences. And not that you would ever say that you wanted to go through that or live through those moments one way or the other, but you are who you are today because of what you went through and because of what you decided to do after. And we all deal with issues and struggles and highs and lows, but we can either let it defeat us or inspire us to do something greater than ourselves, which is what you've done. What you've laid out there, the conversation that you had with Gary, oh, why not 100? Well, you're not quite at 100 yet, but you're close. And, but gosh, think about that. Just think about where you started and where you are now. And as far as I'm concerned, there's plenty more to go, so it's just great stuff.
Yeah. And you know what? I think a lot of that has to do with, again, this is not just applicable to business. I think it's applicable to life.
Yeah.
Right. We all go through challenges, and sure, you know what? Some have it harder than others, but we all have struggles. And when we're in it, it's tough. And, I think it also takes us some time, and as we mature and get older, we're more open to looking at it with a different lens.
Wow.
Where we can kind of look at these challenges. Okay, this is a challenge. I accept it. What is this here to teach me about me? And how is it here to evolve me?
Wow.
Right. And just keeping those two questions at the forefront when you're going through any challenging moment, and try to draw from the positivity of it. Because, with every hardship, and when we're in it, we don't see it at times, but when we come out of it, like, my divorce was extremely hard on me.
Yeah.
And it was extremely hard on me. And I didn't know this at the time, that my deep rooted pain as an adult was abandonment.
Wow.
And, and I'm going to tie this into the team here because, when you're a team leader and, again, a lot of personal relationships over my time, I mean, when they would end, it would gut me. It was such a painful experience. And after I got divorced, I'm like, I'm never letting anyone into my heart again. Sure. Right. I don't want to experience that pain. Mm-hmm. But, as I matured and started working on myself, and I'm like, it started to discover that my deep rooted pain came from my childhood. It actually freed me from that emotional jail that I lived in all my adult life. Wow. Now, when you're running a team, obviously people are going to come and go. Right. And having people leave the team was also very hard because I didn't have a resolution around that inner pain. Mm-hmm. Right. So, once you kind of free yourself from your own baggage, because I mean, we all have it, and it's very likely that it's going to show up in whatever your work is. Mm-hmm. So if you got to, do a little bit of the hard work, and it is hard work to look in the mirror and kind of work on some of that stuff, but the light at the end of the tunnel, and when you stand in that light, it's incredibly freeing. And I think that, one of the things that we did about 4 years ago, as I went through the journey of personal development, I also shared that with the team, and it now has become a pretty massive part of our culture, where we are massive about personal development, accepting people for who they are, and also helping them navigate through those challenges, right? We've had agents on the team that have gone through some pretty, scary illnesses and come out and survived, and we're just there as a this big family. And I would say that culture is so incredibly important in an organization. It's not something that you have a blueprint for, right? But it's something that you can control by who you allow into the organization. And if you have selected the right people, the culture will also police itself. Wow. Which is fascinating to observe.
Well, and you and I had discussed before we went live, but just the interest and fascination that we both have with just human behavior and why people do what they do and the decisions that they make. And, it's interesting that you were able to kind of curate that and cultivate that culture and let it morph into its own thing, living, breathing, and changing and evolving, and not smothering or trying to turn it into something that's not. And I think those are the best brands, the best cultures, and people feel real. It's like family, right? You can't change that. It just is what it is. And but I think the actions speak louder than words, and how people act is how others are going to be able to react. And you're looking at that from such a deep note. And again, Justin, you're sharing so many incredible nuggets or pearls for team leads or individuals to really grow and scale from the fundamentals, the foundation of it. Because as important as systems and tools and lead gen and branding, if you don't have your foundation solid, all of that's just going to crumble, right? So I mean, starting from those notes, and what I'm taking away, and hopefully everybody's picking this up too, what you said at the very beginning when you picked up your phone and you said, look, in your calendar, it's your family, it's you got to make that a priority, putting that in there. Because without you taking care of yourself and directive, you can't really help others, or it's not to the full extent. And that's spoken from a true leader.
Yeah, and you know what? It's like, what do they tell you when you board an airplane, right? If there's an emergency, who do you put that mask on?
Yourself
first.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And if you're going to lead people, you got to take care of yourself, right? So you can take care of others. And for me now, I mean, this is all about, again, supporting all the people that are within our organization, from agents to staff, and also supporting our community, right? It's a privilege to be in a position that I'm in, and it's obviously been, an up and down roller coaster like business usually is, right? But every challenge, you draw something positive from it, and you look at finding the solution and you move on. And the most powerful word in this business is next. Right. And you know what, that can go from team leader to brand new agent. You're going to go work with a client, and let's say it doesn't work out, and we can get so emotionally wound up in it. And I kind of compare real estate to managing emotional shitstorms or sailing in the middle of the ocean, right? Because we gotta look at my cat trying to get into their.
Oh, you're good. You're good. This
He
is
will,
live.
he will open the door.
Oh, that's awesome.
So don't get distracted.
No, you're good.
But like residential real estate is all an emotional transaction.
Sure.
People are always going to buy based on circumstances and needs, and it's usually driven by emotion. So we have to obviously be the guide and help our clients navigate through those emotions of fear, and sometimes it's sadness, anger, if it's a divorce or death, and that stuff, right? So we got to try not to take on our clients' emotions, but we're human beings and we're going to do that because we care.
Right.
Then we got to, obviously, if we're going to do any negotiations, I don't know about you, but egos and emotions can also get into the negotiations from yourself and from the other agent. So you got to navigate through that, and then you got to navigate through your own emotions.
Wow.
Right. So I think one of the most powerful things that we can do, especially in this business, is really master our emotions and regulations of our emotions.
Yeah.
That in itself, I think, will allow a lot of freedom within ourselves, because it's exhausting from all the different scenarios. I mean, look at the markets that we're seeing across the world right now, right? Especially North America. Shortage of inventory, crazy number of offers, and then you're a buyer agent and you're sitting there competing against 10, 15. I've even heard as high as 83 offers on a property.
Wow.
And you're trying to navigate through that, and buyers are also getting the fatigue, and like, I don't feel like competing anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So it's people that are looking at getting into their business are like, oh, selling real estate is easy. Well, it's not rocket science to sell real estate, but the challenge is navigating through human behavior and human emotions.
Right. Yeah, I would agree 100%. It's a people business and everything's surrounded by that. Talking to the thought process of emotions, and it's that old adage, you either master your emotions or they master you, or they rule your emotions or they rule you. And I think that's a huge takeaway for everybody to kind of go through. And Justin, I want to go to the next question because I think this is a great segue. And you had mentioned moving the needle earlier on, but we went down a different road, and that was beautiful. But I want to, for everybody who's tuning in, there's so many people who want to learn from the Titans. And again, what you've applied and learned and changed for growth and scale and moving that needle. So the second question is, if you could go back on your career thus far and pick or choose one or two things that you added or implemented that you really saw growth, you saw the needle move. And I know you shared several different things already, but anything you'd like to, any advice that you give to anybody watching or listening that way to grow and scale?
Yeah, you know what? I think it's really important, obviously, to ensure that you reinvest back into your business, whatever that amount is.
Right.
But also be clear on what you want the business to do for you, right? A lot of people in this industry, they idolize teams or team leaders.
Okay.
Right. I'll tell you this: building a team doesn't give you more free time.
Come on, really? Come on, Justin.
No, it doesn't. The idea is there, but at the same time, at least not from my own personal experience.
Sure.
But what I think is important there, though, is investing into your business, and what some of the pivotal investments that I've made is, I'm a big believer in digital assets, building out websites, investing into search engine optimization or SEO so that they will rank high organically. Like I have some websites right now where, if someone was to replicate the traffic, the organic traffic that we get with Google AdWords, you would have to spend somewhere between $700,000 and $800,000 a month in Google AdWords, but I get that traffic organically. And again, like if you want to do anything at a high level, you got to apply yourself and you got to be consistent over a long period of time. And the reason why a lot of people fail at doing search engine optimization is, one, they probably have the wrong company. doing it for them. If an agent is trying to do SEO themselves, I mean, unless you're an expert, don't do it, because
I agree.
you can really, I've even hired companies that have been the wrong companies that have done kind of gray hat, black hat SEO. And I had, 80 grand invested into a website and woke up one morning, Google did an algorithm update. And I'm like,
oh,
where is it? It disappeared. Right.
Oh, wow.
So hence why, if you're going to build a digital asset, you got to make sure that you have the right people working for you.
Sure.
I'm a big believer in domain names. I own several of them, and I own Calgary.com here in Calgary.
Yeah.
Right. So can't get any better domain for Calgary than that.
That is as good as it gets.
Yeah. Right. And that took me 4 years
Wow.
to acquire.
Okay.
So I didn't give up on the first no. Right.
Wow.
So that has been pivotal. In 2014, I made a decision to really invest into branding. And I think that, some of the things that we need to kind of have an awareness of as an industry is there's disruption that's already here. You have big companies backed by Wall Street, slowly trying to enter into Canada, but they're clearly visible down in the US. And, especially when one, the people behind the one company also are behind something that disrupted the travel industry.
Right.
Right. So are they planning on doing the same thing for the real estate industry? Very likely. Right. So that's where, how do we position ourselves to then get the biggest part of the market share outside of the disruption? And that is to build an incredibly strong brand in your marketplace. And a brand is more than a logo. You need to get, impressions. You need to build trust and brand awareness. And that comes by, mixing digital, traditional, TV, radio, billboards, because you got to touch them as many times as possible.
Right.
For instance, from our standpoint, we had last year about 375 million impressions in our marketplace.
Wow.
Right. So it's just repeat. And essentially, I mean, that business comes because you have a brand in the marketplace. But I think that's one of the things. So in 2014, we started doing radio, started working with radio and television experts, started offering a guarantee sold program through the brokerage here in Canada, or here in Alberta. The brokerage are the ones that have to offer that. And we've been in a depressed market here in Calgary since 2014. And it wasn't until actually this year where we started to see all the seller activity. We're like, we've been waiting for you for 6 years. Because we literally here in Calgary, I mean, we are tied to obviously oil and gas, and with oil and gas kind of tanking in 2014, 2015, we are sitting with about a 30% vacancy rate downtown pre-COVID. Right, a lot of empty office spaces, and we had a lot of oil companies that actually moved south because it was a better tax environment for them to operate down there.
Okay.
So, those are some of the challenges that we've had here in Calgary. So again, how do we find that solution? Well, we have to still continue to market and get exposure and ensure that we put our clients first, and, putting as many eyeballs on their properties as possible. And then also continuing to obsess about the client experience from start to finish, which then will deliver, raving 5-star reviews. And just continue on just getting feedback. And at the same time, too, another thing that's a good lesson for myself was learning that feedback is a way that you can improve your business and not taking it personal.
Sure.
Obviously, with myself being Justin Havre Associates, my name's associated with everything.
Right.
And do I care about my name? Yeah, just like every one of you care about your name, and your reputation, right? So it's hard not to take feedback sometimes personally, but shifting that, say, okay, no one's perfect. However, hear out the clients and ensuring that they're heard, and looking at ways that you can obviously not have that experience happen again, so it turns into a positive experience. Right. But, from a business standpoint, yeah, just investing into marketing, and you got to do so, with diligence as well. And
Well said.
sometimes it's going to be a little bit of trial and error, and,
Mhm.
you may go back and you make some improvements, and off you go.
But Justin, where you're talking about laying the foundations for growth and success and ultimately saturation to a given market, I think is crucially important to understand. But I love the fact that you're talking about the client experience, because the old adage of it's not the best business, but the best known business that wins. So having enough people hear and know and understand who you are and what you do is one thing. So once you get the exposure and the hook, what are you doing after the fact? And that's following up and doing it to the highest of standards. To your point, then getting the reviews, right? So you're getting the consumer's recognition to say, hey, these are good at what they do. They know what's going on. And I think that that's kind of that continuous loop of successes, I think is crucially important. And you touched on digital assets, physical assets, and being consistent. And the term omnipresence is thrown around quite a bit, really being everywhere to everyone that matters into your markets. And I think that that's easier said than done, but it can be done. And I think more than ever, with certain companies, and you didn't mention any names, so neither will I. I think that there's certain companies that are trying to disrupt and change the industry. And to your point, is bringing that to the true consumer and saying, how can we do it better, smarter, faster, build our own machines, really have our own exposure. And that way we can control the environment that's there and not relying on somebody else, bringing a lot in-house and growing that way, I think is super smart.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, these tech companies, they're not going to take away human interaction.
Well said.
I think the consumers are always going to need, a real estate professional to dissect the information and give advice. Because again, technology can't understand emotion.
Right.
Right. So, the reality is that we're in the business of follow-up. It's really what we're in the business of doing.
Wow.
Right. And, another thing that we did a few years ago too was we really invested into developing a CRM, right? Because we have, I checked here last month, we had 39 different lead sources that came into our CRM. Wow. But, having that overview and, you can see where the business is coming from. You can see also the activities that will move the needle from the agents that are working the system as well. And then also, adding some automations, AI, but they don't pick up the phone to call people. They don't. Right. They don't record a video for you and hit send. Right. So it does require obviously work, but when you have discovered a process and you continue to fine tune that process to again enhance that client experience, running a team, obviously it's great to bring in experienced agents on the team because they bring a lot of knowledge and value. At the same time, having a good training platform where, the training is so detailed down to every single step of the transaction so that all, the agents have to do is just follow that process. Sure. It turns into a 5-star Google review. Wow. And you can take a brand new agent. This month, actually, we had 2 new agents that just finished their first year, both women. One, she was 22 years old. Okay. Sold over 40 homes in her first year. Unreal. Right? Unreal. Worked hard. Oh, and by the way, she also finished a degree at the University of Calgary with Dean's Honors. Right. She didn't tell us she was still doing that. Right. But what a rock star. Wow. I know. Right. And then another, we've had also a couple of agents come join us from policing as well. Okay. And again, you want to talk about people that have a good understanding of how to interact with people. Because typically first responders, they're responding to people that are highly emotional at times and de-escalating emotions and all that kind of stuff. And you know what? They also make for some pretty incredible real estate agents. Wow. Right. So it's been a fascinating journey, and it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. And, we continue to evolve and grow, and we learn, we fail, but when we fail, we look at the positives from it and we carry on.
Gosh, Justin, again, I can't thank you enough for sharing all the wisdom and knowledge and just perspective and to growing and scaling and looking at it from so many different angles. And I know we're literally just scratching the surface of your knowledge and your expertise, but we got to be, appreciative of everybody's time on here. And I always encourage everybody who's tuning in to, if anything stuck out to you with what Justin was saying about life and goals and business, please follow him on social media. I'll have a ton of links down below. Reach out with any questions. Hopefully I'm not throwing you under the bus there, Justin, but a lot of times the audience loves to just engage and understand and learn from the best and brightest. So hopefully your DMs don't blow up too much as this is going on. But
bring it on. Yeah, follow me on Instagram, Justin Havre. Same on obviously Facebook.
Okay.
All the other social media channels as well. And also remember that, whatever success you achieve in this industry, use it as a vehicle to create memorable life experiences for yourself and your families.
Yeah. I love it. Full circle, bringing it up at the beginning and the end, my friend. I cannot thank you enough. And I appreciate just the depth of knowledge and expertise that you have, Justin. And I have to dub this in. You are an official real estate titan, my friend. So that is a badge of honor that no one can ever take away from you. That is yours forever. It's just been a thrill and an honor, Justin. Again, I can't thank you enough.
No, thank you again for having me here, Greg. And always a pleasure. And let's do it again.
Awesome. Love to. And everybody, thank you as always for your time and attention, your love and support as well. If you like what we're doing here at Real Estate Titans, don't forget to like and subscribe. You know what to do at this point. I do have to give our sponsor a quick shout out, Lion Bolt Media. If you are a real estate professional and you're looking to grow and scale your digital business, really looking at for market saturation, lead generation, and conversion for more transactions, visit lionboltmedia.com. They have a free mini course inside there. Click on the tab above. We are live here every Tuesday afternoon, a different Titan, a different location. We'll catch everybody in the next live episode of Real Estate Titans. Take care. Thanks, Justin.
Take care, guys. Thank you.